They don't get that Midna's hair color is meant to be reflective of Twin Rova. They don't get that Midna's dialogue before the fight reflects what Naboru tells you as a child. And they especially don't understand that Zant being a male Gerudo and wanting to reestablish the patriarchy is what all of this dialogue was always about. None of this stuff is a contradiction to Ocarina of Time. It's building on what's already there. We know a male is born to the Gerudo every 100 years. When Ganondorf is banished, there's a power vacuum, so women start leading the tribe. They basically already were. Kume and Kotake were controlling everything from behind the scenes. So if only the child half of the Spirit Temple happens, and not the adult half, Naboru is still brainwashed as an Iron Knuckle. Technically, you can't visit Gerudo Valley as Child Link. There's a lot that goes unsaid about where they've been. And from Eiji Aonuma's perspective, if you came up with the whole story of Ocarina of Time, which he did, you'd want to explain what happens as a consequence. Gee, it's almost like Majora's Mask is an infamously unfinished game or something. Weird. There is a pretty good video by Max Darrett where he talks about all the Gerudo's dark magic stuff, and how in both Zelda and in Ico, there's a focus of this dark transformation magic and body horror. But again, most of that is the bleeding edge of the fandom, and even he doesn't get into everything. These 5 Zelda games really aren't that dense with story, and like I keep saying, they explicitly tell you this stuff in dialogue. The way that Fumito Ueda approached the problem is that he set it up so that the dialogue would not be necessary, kind of like a silent movie. And Eiji Aonuma reciprocated that idea, making Wind Waker more cinematic and expressive, and yeah, also including a fictional language system. Aonuma saves his most explicit homage to Shadow of the Colossus for this fight, The Imprisoned. It's no secret that Skyward Sword is the most divisive game in the franchise. Let's see if those critiques are in good faith or not. I'm surprised I got this far in a video about Zelda's canon without bringing up the fact that Ganon and Ganondorf are 2 separate entities. You'll notice that when he's introduced in Wind Waker, in the adult timeline, he's remembered as Ganon, because he successfully obtained the power of the gods by opening the door to the sacred realm inside the Temple of Time. Whereas in Twilight Princess, he's remembered as Ganondorf, because he did not successfully obtain the power of the gods by opening the door to the sacred realm inside the Temple of Time. Ganondorf is the patriarch of the Gerudo people, the king of thieves, whereas Ganon is the pig-like demon that he transforms into. You don't even have to know any of the story to know that. You can just read boss names. It tells you, explicitly. So the reason that Demise isn't called Ganondorf is because he isn't Ganondorf. More accurately, he's the precursor to Ganon. I don't know if you noticed, but the fact that Ganondorf transforms like this is a curse. Transformation curses like this are all over Zelda, so we can understand his condition by comparing him to similarly afflicted people. So anyway, if Demise is a thematic exploration of Ganon's greed separated from his arrogance, who exactly holds his arrogance? Groose is all arrogance and no greed. He's got red hair, golden eyes, and he starts out as your school bully, but later turns into a hero, helping you suppress a demon from corrupting a temple by pushing it into a big hole in the ground. Now, if you can't figure out what that's a metaphor for, honestly, I give up. Yeah, this is a long video, but I value my time, and I want my audience to value their time too. Aonuma's games still mostly require dialogue because of his background, but you can see, even down to the plot details, all of this is important, like how Ganon is taking girls to the Forsaken Fortress because they have yellow hair. Exactly how Ico is taken to the Queen's Castle because he's a boy with horns. These kinds of traditions of sacrifice to ward off evil are pretty essential to Shintoism, and I really shouldn't have to tell you that Shintoism is important to something created in Japan. So as you can see, Zelda's connections to Ico and Ico's connections to Zelda are not optional pieces of this analysis. It's not optional. If you didn't know any of this, I'm not going to say that it's okay, because I don't think it's okay. The only reason Nintendo fans don't know any of this is because all their gaming experience exists in a bubble.
I feel like right now in the early days of Switch, that's what you're seeing, is that there's people who have the Switch and are hungry for games to play.
How big is it?
How
big is the audience?
Exactly.
What is it? 2 million units?
2 million.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's what they wanted to hit by.
Yeah. So let's take 2 million units.
Yeah.
Right now, do you ever sell in 10% of the installed base?
Supposedly, Switch has a crazy attach rate with the.
Well, that's because there's
Zelda
so few available. One of the highest IPs of all time, right? Nintendo first party will deliver IPs that the Nintendo audience is just frothing for, right? So they'll have the highest attach rate of any new console with their own specific IPs, Zelda and Mario.
And get them to go get it in the same way like Limbo did. Where Limbo, hey, I'm only on Xbox, this is great. And by the time I got to PlayStation 4, everybody snapped it up.
And I think it's a great comparison, and it's true. And how many cases will that happen for? No, really. Who really, by the end of the life of the Wii, who else was making money on the Wii aside from Nintendo? How many titles sold for the Wii that weren't Nintendo first party?
Sure.
Okay. So what happened? So they started basically evaporating third-party support, right? And we get to Wii U. What happened? Same.
No third parties, yeah.
How well are other developers, first party, third party, indie, how well are they going to bring titles over? Not very well, because they're going to have to spend more time, energy, and effort to get it onto that console for an underpowered console that's going to have fewer units in the marketplace. So they'll have an unusually high attach rate.
Right.
But what's the chance of anyone else after the initial launch, right? Because the first
now
thing,
as the store fills up,
if there's only 3 titles available,
yeah,
you're probably going to sell super high attachment rate, right? But as soon as 10 are available, how are you going to do?
Yeah.
As soon as 20 are available, how are you going to do? Which is really the metric, right? If you didn't make it day one, you're in the higher numbers of competitive stuff. So there could be some advantages for some people, but overall, it's going to add up to the same thing: smaller portfolio on the library. Period. At the end of the day, the catalog is going to be this when it could have been this. You would have thought that maybe if there's no games for sale on a network, if people have a hardware device, maybe they'd like to know that a game has become available.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that, in a silly me.
Yeah.
If you grew up with Nintendo, there's a good chance you never leave Nintendo, and more crucially, you never actually grow up. Instead of complaining that Skyward Sword was boring, what people should have said at the time of its release is how bold it actually was. And no, I'm not saying that out of any kind of bias or prejudice. This is one of the key things that holds video games back from being appreciated as narrative art. All of the art intellectuals think that video games are merely toys, and all the gamers are only interested in the toy-like qualities of the games they play. The Sky not having gameplay events in it doesn't make it boring, it makes it peaceful. It's explicitly designed that way, as a retreat from the challenges the surface world presents you with.